Okay. And we are streaming.
Okay, good. Good morning, and thank you for all in attendance today. I'd like to call to order the August the 13th meeting of the County of Perth Land Division Committee. I would like to make note that what will be shown on the screen for those viewing at home is our remote meeting platform, whereby whoever is speaking will be shown predominantly, with smaller images of members and staff attending along the edge of the screen. The agenda for the meeting hearing has been posted online at perthcounty.ca. If you want to follow along, please feel free to access it now. I will remind all committee members and staff and any others participating in the meeting to please mute your microphones when not in use to reduce the feedback. As this meeting is being held remotely, there are some procedural changes regarding how the committee will vote. The Secretary Treasurer will call each of the members' names, and each member will respond if they are in favor or opposed to the motion, and the chair will announce the results of the vote. Before we proceed, we will confirm attendance at the committee of the committee members by a roll call. So David, I'll let you do the roll call, I guess.
Okay, thank you, Chair Mackenzie. Committee members, I'll be reading your names out loud. When you hear your name, please unmute yourself and respond present. So I will begin at this point. Councillor Aitchison.
Present.
Councillor Eggets.
Present.
Councillor Duncan.
Present.
Councillor Wilhelm.
Present.
And Councillor Mackenzie.
Present.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Attendance is complete and we do have quorum for the meeting.
Okay, thank you, David. So the first item on the agenda is confirmation of the agenda. So a motion that we confirm the August 30th agenda would be in order. Do we have a mover and seconder for that? Warden Aitchison and Councillor Wilhelm. And David, I'll let you conduct the poll.
Okay, Warden Aitchison, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councillor Eggets, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councillor Duncan, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councillor Wilhelm, how do you vote?
Yes.
And Councillor Mackenzie, how do you vote?
Yes. So the agenda has been confirmed. Does anybody have a conflict of interest with anything on the agenda today? Okay, I don't see anything. So the first item that we're going to deal with then is the hearing of an application for consent, and it's 5.1. It's an application for consent to sever surplus farm dwelling number B17/21 on behalf of James Adams. And David, or is it Adam, is going to maybe take this one?
Chair Mackenzie, just a point, through the chair, just a point of order. We have adoption of the previous meeting.
Oh, sorry.
That we need to handle prior to.
Yes, we do. Sorry. And that's what happens when I go from one sheet to another sheet. Okay. First item in is then that we adopt the minutes of the July 26th Land Division Committee meeting. Mover and seconder for that. Councillor Wilhelm, Councillor Eggets. Okay, David.
So just taking the vote, Warden Aitchison, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councillor Eggets, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councillor Duncan, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councillor Wilhelm, how do you vote?
Yes.
And Councillor Mackenzie, how do you vote?
Yes. So that is carried. So we've adopted the minutes. Sorry about that. Okay, the first item of business then, as I mentioned previously, is an application for consent to sever of a surplus farm dwelling, B17/21, and on behalf of James Adams, the owner. And I will let David, are you doing this one or Adam?
Through the chair, our senior planner, Adam Kozlowski, will be presenting.
All right.
Yep.
I'm looking here. It doesn't say whose name on the report here, so I'm guessing. Okay, Adam, take her away. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Chair,
members of committee, thank you. Good morning. I'm going to share screen and walk committee through the application. And I trust everybody can see the air photo with my cursor. Okay. So the application before committee today is for a surplus farm dwelling severance. And the property is located at the southeast intersection of Perth Line 20 and Road 140 with the frontage off of Road 140. This property is about 8 kilometers west of St. Paul's, and it's in a predominantly agricultural area. The subject lands are designated agricultural and they're zoned for agriculture. Just zooming in on the air photo, the proposed severance would basically take in the dwelling, and then there's a bunch of outbuildings here, and then there's a bank barn at the rear of the property. And the retained lands would be vacant. They're currently cash cropped, and there is a municipal drain at the south end of the property that is not impacted by the severance. So just to show the lands, the retained lot would have 20.5 hectares of area, so that's 50 acres. And the severed lot as originally proposed, and I'll zoom in on that. This property would have 0.5 hectares or 1.24 acres with 66 meters of frontage or 217 feet of frontage on Road 140. And the lot, a little bit of an unusual shape here, and that jog was to ensure that the septic system is contained on the property. And then the rear lot line would basically encompass all of the accessory buildings, including the bank barn at the rear of the property. Through conversation with the agent for the owners, it was determined that the bank barn is intended to be used in future for storage of machinery and tools that would be used for continued cropping of the retained lands. And as a result, staff wrote a recommendation report to Perth South Council on August 10th, and we recommended a reduced lot size, which I'm going to show you here. The staff recommendation was to reduce the lot size from 1.24 acres down to 1.03 acres. And the reason was that for the purposes of zoning compliance mainly is that the bank barn should be retained on the retained lot since it's going to be used in relation to the retained farm operation. The endorsement from Perth South Council was to approve the lot as originally applied for, which is this configuration here, which would keep the bank barn on the retained, on the severed non-farm lot. And in general, Perth South Council felt that it was best to keep the bank barn on the property to preserve it so that it doesn't fall into disrepair or get demolished. And so that's what was approved by Perth South Council. The resolution is in the report package. The staff recommendation today remains the same. We still recommend approval of a reduced lot size. And again, that's just for zoning compliance to ensure that the bank barn is kept with the retained lot if it is to be used as accessory to the farm and not accessory to the new lot on the property. So the recommendation from staff again is to approve the application subject to the conditions in the report, which include a reduced lot size again to deal with the bank barn. And I would be happy to answer any questions that committee may have. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Adam. Okay, are there any questions from members of the committee with regards to that? Councillor Wilhelm.
Yeah, I'd just like to make a comment on why Perth South decided to go with the original request. The bank barn, you can look at the picture and see it's in good shape, good condition. The farm equipment, you will not be able to store very much farm equipment in. And discussions with the owner, they do store some of their goods pertaining to their business in that. And to access the bank barn, they would have to go into the severed lot if you look at the ramp up to the bank barn. So therefore, they would always be driving into the residential lot down the road to use the upper part of the bank barn. So with all that, the council per South decided that it would be best to go back to the original request. And we want to save bank barns, so that's a good opportunity.
Okay, thanks, Bob. Councillor Agates.
So if we go back to our original mandate of what we're supposed to be doing here in page 23, the provincial policy statement, it says the new lot is limited to a minimum size needed to accommodate the use and appropriate water and sewage services. So I have a little bit of a problem that we're going to allow, now we're going to start allowing barns to be kept with the house too. First it was supposed to be the house, then we started allowing small sheds, big sheds, and now we want a barn. And the comment's been made about preserving the barn. Why can't the farmer who's got the land, he's going to preserve the barn. He said that he puts his equipment in that barn that he uses on his land. So someday that property is going to be sold and someone new is going to own that house and the barn, if that's allowed. And the person who runs the farm isn't going to have his barn. So I think we need to get back to where we are supposed to be originally. The comment was made about him not being turned around. Well, you know what? If I had my way, we'd move that line right up behind the house and that well. But I realize those little sheds, you know, are great for the lawnmower, or the snow blower, or those kind of things. So I'm kind of willing to let those little sheds stay, but I cannot support that we're going to keep a barn, because once you do this once, everybody's going to want their barn to stay with their property. And that's not the mandate of this council. If county council wants that changed, then they need to tell us. But otherwise, our job is supposed to be to make these lots as small as possible with the water and the sewage. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Rhonda. Thank you. Anybody else? Any questions? Warden Aitchison?
Well, I somewhat agree with Rhonda's comments, but if you really look at the aerial photo of that, the bottom of that barn bank, and it's not that big of a barn. I actually was up and had a look at this. The bottom of that barn bank was right back down to that one small shed. In order for anybody to put anything in there that isn't part of that house and other shed, they're going to need a right of way to get to it. For the most part, I think it should stay with the house, personally. And you talk about as small a size as possible. Even with that bank barn on there, it's still only 1.2 acres. That's still one of the smallest ones we've done in ages.
Okay, thanks, Jim. Anybody else? Okay, I don't see anybody hands going up, and I don't believe there is anybody present that wishes to speak in favor or in opposition to this application. So I have a recommendation here, and I'll read the recommendation, and then Dave can take the vote. And the recommended action is that County of Perth Land Division Committee receive the report entitled Application for Consent to Sever Surplus Farm Dwelling B1721 by James Adams, affecting lands described as Lot 25, Concession 8, the Downey Ward Township of Perth South, 3169 line 140, dated Tuesday, July the 13th, prepared by County Planning Department for information. And that the County of Perth Land Division Committee approve the application for consent to sever surplus farm dwelling B1721 made by James Adams and as modified by staff, subject to the following. And there's 11 conditions there. And if you want me to read them, I can, but we've had them for the weekend to look at. So I'm gathering that I won't read the 11 conditions at this time. If everybody's in favor of that, now reading the conditions, then I will ask for a mover and a seconder, and then David can carry on with the vote on this particular application. So do we have a mover and seconder for that recommendation? Councillor Duncan, and a seconder for that application. Councillor Agates, thank you. Okay, David, you can conduct the vote, please.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. So through the Chair, Warden Aitchison, how do you vote on the motion?
No,
Councillor Agates, how do you vote?
yes,
Councillor Wilhelm, how do you vote?
No,
Councillor Duncan, how do you vote?
yes,
And Councillor Mackenzie, how do you vote?
Yes. So that recommendation is carried. Okay, moving on. The next item is application for consent to sever B11 /21 by Patterson Planning Consultants on behalf of 2157854 Ontario Inc., Ron Buchanan and Brian Buchanan, part of lots 16 and 17, concession 8 of the Elmo Ward, 302 Woodview Drive, Atwood, municipality of North Perth. And I just have to bring this up on my report here. Sean, you're doing this report, I believe. Okay, I'll turn it over to you.
Great, thank you. And good morning, members of Land Division Committee. I hope everyone had a nice weekend. So I have one application for consent to discuss this morning. Application for consent to sever number B1121 by Patterson Planning Consultants on behalf of the property owners are seeking to sever a residential parcel containing an existing dwelling from the subject lands. If I may share my screen, I do feel a visual would be helpful to discuss the proposal. Okay, so this is the report photo prepared by the County of Perth GIS team to illustrate the submitted severance sketch, which is included with the staff report for your reference. As you can see from the report photo, the area in yellow represents the area proposed to be severed from the larger parcel. This has a proposed area of 3,118 square meters or 0.77 acres and consists of the existing area dedicated for the residential use. So this is the dwelling here. If the severance is approved, the retained lands, that is the remaining balance of the land, will have a lot area of 5.46 hectares or 13.5 acres. This is shown in red on the report photo, so this area here. The subject lands are located at the eastern edge of Atwood, with a portion of the subject lands located within the Atwood settlement area boundary. The balance of the property is located outside the settlement area boundary and is within the agriculture designation and the natural resource environment designation. The property is primarily comprised of actively tilled agricultural land with a woodlot located at the northeastern boundary. The subject lands have a total lot area of approximately 5.7 hectares, with approximately 2 hectares or 5 acres of the site within the settlement area boundary. So that's roughly this area here is within the settlement area boundary, whereas this whole area is outside. The subject lands currently have approximately 20 meters or 60 feet of existing public road frontage, which abuts the northerly terminus of Woodview Drive. So that is right here, if you can see. So this is Woodview Drive, and this is what the current 20-meter frontage is for the property. So just this right here. This frontage is the only public road access to the entire site. There is an existing barn, which is located right here, if you can see it, and it is proposed to remain with the retained lands. But it is important to note that this barn falls within the wellhead protection area and is currently only being used for storage purposes. Based on the severance sketch submitted with the application, staff notes that the proposed residential lot does not have public road frontage or direct access with the public road. So this is what the proposed lot is. And the frontage is over here. So it doesn't actually have any public road frontage for what is being proposed. The owner wishes to use the existing driveway, which is this area, to access the residential dwelling. However, this driveway is proposed to be located on a portion of the property that will remain with the retained lands. As such, a registered easement is proposed to provide legal access between the dwelling and Woodview Drive. Now, this is identified as the green broken line here on the report photo. The proposed severed lot is entirely within the serviced urban area, the residential designation, and is subject to the policies of section 6.4.5 Atwood. I'm sorry, I actually just messed up my pages here. I do apologize about that. But decisions on consent to sever applications must be consistent with the provincial policy statement 2020. Now, the entirety of the proposed severed lot is within the Atwood settlement area. The severance proposes a residential lot within the existing settlement area boundary. The PPS encourages residential uses to be located within these areas. The proposed severed lot is of sufficient size to accommodate the existing residential use and accessory uses. The retained lands will continue to be used for agricultural purposes, with a portion of the lands available for future development. This proposal does not impede the continued use or future use of these retained lands. It is important to note that conditions have been recommended to assure that the severed residential lot would have frontage as well as access to a municipal year-round maintained road. These are identified as conditions number 8 and 9 and conditions number 3 and 10 in the recommendation. If completed, these conditions effectively extend Woodview Drive a minimum of 4 meters northward to provide the severed lot with 4 meters of public road frontage. So essentially, Woodview Drive would be extended 4 meters this way and become a public road over here, and then it would have the 4 meters of frontage for the residential lot. The frontage is not expected to accommodate a new access point to the site. However, is available should a new driveway be available in the future. To continue to use the existing driveway to access the residential dwelling, an easement registered on title is required, providing legal access from the public road to the residential lot. Additionally, an agreement addressing items such as snow removal and emergency service access to the residential lot is also required. The application has been found to be consistent with the 2020 provincial policy statement, subject to the noted conditions of consent as discussed in the staff report. Now, the subject property is within the serviced urban area residential designation, the agricultural designation, and the natural resource environment designation of the Perth County Official Plan. The proposed severed lot is located entirely within the serviced urban area and is subject to the policies of section 6.4.5, which is specific policies for Atwood. New lots created by consent in Atwood should constitute either infilling or logical orderly expansion of the existing built-up area to fill in the existing designated areas. New lot creation is permitted, subject to consent criteria contained under section 16.3.2, general consent policies. These criteria look at items such as land use, lot size, public road access, and compatibility, which are discussed in detail in the staff report. Section 16.3.2.5, public road access, requires that new lots created by consent must front on and have access to a public road, which is maintained on a year-round basis. Frontage and access are important because it provides a clear path of delivery of, it provides a clear path for the delivery of emergency services. Direct access to public water and sewer and the road network relieves landowner from negotiation with another citizens for the right to access. The severed lot, as originally proposed, would not have frontage on a public road, and the access to the lot would be through an easement registered on title of a separate property. To extend Woodview Drive northward by 4 meters would provide both frontage and future access point for the severed lot should conditions arise in which access to the retained lands are no longer possible or feasible. The applicant is proposing access to the existing dwelling through the continued use of the existing laneway, which runs approximately 63 meters north from the current end of Woodview Drive. An easement is proposed over the retained lands to facilitate the continued use of this driveway. As noted, conditions are included to ensure that the severed residential lot would have the frontage as well as access to municipal year-round maintained road. The subject lands are proposed, the lands subject to the proposed severance are within the future development zone of the municipality of North Perth zoning bylaw. This zone is considered a placeholder until such time that future development is appropriate and lands are placed in an appropriate zone. The current zoning, the FD zone, prohibits new development. As such, the application package includes an associated application for a zoning bylaw amendment, which proposes to rezone the severed lot to the residential 4 zone. The R4 zone is a commonly used zone in Atwood and is consistent with the neighboring residential use. A condition of consent has been recommended requiring an amendment to the North Perth zoning bylaw, placing the severed lot into the appropriate residential zone. Staff have no objection to the proposed consent, which seek to sever a residential property encompassing an area of the existing single detached dwelling. Conditions of consent are included to ensure that financial and drainage apportionment requirements of the local municipality are met, as well as ensure appropriate zoning is placed on the property. Conditions relating to the transfer of land for the purpose of road extension to provide road access to the severed lot have also been included. Subject to the recommended conditions, the application is consistent with the 2020 provincial policy statement, conforms with the applicable policies of the County of Perth official plan, and represent good planning. As such, it is staff's recommendation that Land Division Committee approve the severance subject to the noted conditions. Thank you.
You're muted.
Walter, you're muted.
Walter, you're muted.
There's another $5, right? Okay, sorry. Is there any questions with regards to this application? Don't see anybody's hands going up. It's my understanding, I understand that Scott doesn't have anything further to add. Am I correct in that? I'm looking at Dave and Sally here, I guess. Anything further to add, Scott?
Yeah, good morning, members of committee and staff. The only thing I would add, and I apologize for the delay in this, is just the condition number 3, which speaks to the granting of an easement for road access. I wonder if we could just include servicing in there as well to make sure that if there is any servicing going through that easement area, that it is captured in addition to providing the road access. The word change, but it will capture everything that's possibly needed. And if we could include that, then I think we're in good shape. We would capture everything. The agreement could speak to it, and we could move forward in that way. But I'm here in full support and appreciate all the efforts that Sean has put into this project and working with me on things.
Okay, thank you, Scott. Any questions? Warden Aitchison?
Just out of curiosity, why was the extension of Woodview Drive only going to be 3 meters and not the full length? I look at that aerial photo, it almost looks like a mud driveway. It's probably gravel, but it looks like mud on the aerial. So can emergency vehicles actually get up that in crappy weather?
Is that
That's probably a question for Scott, maybe, or Sean. I don't know who wants to answer that one.
why don't I start and then Sean can fill in the gaps?
Sure.
Yeah, the existing driveway is meant, the garage on the existing house is at the north end. To use the existing driveway for the time being to access the existing garage. Staff are well aware, and I think Sean alluded to it in his presentation, that there will be a development application forthcoming for the remainder of the lands. hopefully sometimes shortly. And at that time, the full extension of Woodview Drive would be contemplated and designed and developed through that proposal. But right now, it's just to recognize the existing condition. And with regard to your question regarding emergency service vehicles, I believe the principal entrance to the building is within the necessary distance, that if a fire truck or an ambulance had to come to the site now, the principal entrance to the building would be within the appropriate distance. But we can validate that through staff through further discussion. But right now, if there's any improvements needed to the roadway, the landowners can work with staff on that as well.
Okay, Scott. Sean, anything further to add?
Yeah, sure. Thank you. So we had looked at extending the full length of Woodview Drive, and as Scott has noted, there is some future plans to maybe see that happen. But we also were considering the costs of the associated extension in relation to the application. And now the condition requires a minimum of 4 meters. And in speaking with North Perth staff, it's noted that when reviewing this condition, to ensure that 4 meters is appropriate to provide that access. If it needs to be a little bit more, then it would need to be a little bit more, but the 4 meters is a minimum.
Okay. Any other questions? I don't see any hands going up. So I'll read the recommendation, and there are 11 conditions. I won't read the 11 conditions, but note that condition number 3 has been amended to allow for servicing as well in that condition. So the recommendation then is the Perth County Land Division Committee receives a report entitled Application for Consent to Sever, number B1121, by Patterson Planning Consultants on behalf of 2157854 Ontario Inc., Ron Buchanan and Brian Buchanan, parts of lot 1617, concession 8, the Elma Ward, 302 Woodview Drive, Atwood, municipality of North Perth, and that Perth County Land Division Committee approved the application for consent to sever B1121 by Patterson Planning Consultants on behalf of 2157854 Ontario Inc., Ron Buchanan and Brian Buchanan, for property described as part lots 16 and 17, concession 8, Elma Ward, 302 Woodview Drive, Atwood, municipality of North Perth, subject to following, and the 11 conditions are listed there. So do we have a mover and seconder for that recommendation? Councillor Duncan, Councillor Hagitz, and David, I'll let you conduct the vote, please.
Thank you, Chair. Through the Chair, Warden Aitchison, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councillor Agats, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councillor Wilhelm, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councillor Duncan, how do you vote?
Yes.
And Councillor Mackenzie, how do you vote?
Yes. So that recommendation is carried. Thank you. Thank you very much. Next item up on the agenda then is the new in process delegated authority approved, final approved, on hold, withdrawn, and lapsed applications. And Sally, are you doing that one for us?
I can, certainly, with Rachel away today. We have in the report, you'll read 11 new applications, bringing us up to 29 for the year, which is actually a little bit lower than we anticipated. We had 6 delegated approvals over the last month and 4 final approvals. So those are consents that have met all of their conditions and are now separately conveyable lots for the development of choice for the development that was intended for those. And we have 2 that continue to be on hold. One of them just probably could be closed out, I think, potentially. And one of them that was waiting for that official plan amendment 189. It's a surplus farm dwelling severance. So if there's any questions about the the report in summary of all the various applications and status, I can take those.
Okay, any questions for Sally on any of those items in that report? Okay, seeing none, we do have a motion then that Perth County Land Division Committee receive the report on new, in process, final approved, on hold, withdrawn, lapsed, and delegated approved applications being presented on August the 30th. We have a mover and seconder for that recommendation, Warden Aitchison and Councillor Wilhelm. Thank you. Okay, David?
Okay, through the chair, Warden Aitchison, how do you vote on the motion?
Yes.
Councillor Eggerts, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councillor Wilhelm, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councillor Duncan, how do you vote?
Yes.
And Councillor Mackenzie, how do you vote?
Yes, so that motion is also carried. Do we have any correspondence at all at this time? No, I don't believe we have. Any update on any appeals, or do we have any appeals?
There are no appeals at the moment on consent application.
Okay, that's good. Any other business at this time? Okay, don't see anything. And we don't have a closed meeting, I don't believe.
Are we going to appoint a deputy land
Oh,
division?
sorry, I missed that one, Jim. Thank you, Jim.
Just
Yes,
checking.
we need to appoint a deputy, and I got to find that on my report here. What do we call it, Sally? A deputy?
6.2 Land Division Secretary and Treasurer.
Yes. Okay. So we need to do that. Appointment of it. Yeah, here it is. Deputy Land Division Secretary Treasurer, and the recommendation. Oh, go ahead, Dave.
Sorry, through the chair, I can put the recommendation up on the screen for everyone if that's of assistance.
Sure, if you'd like to
Sure.
do that, that would be
Sure.
fine.
So I'll just do that quickly here. So there's our report under section 6.2 with the recommendation, and it would be to appoint our senior planner, Adam Kozlowski, as new deputy LDC secretary treasurer. Due to some recent and pending staff vacancies, we're recommending that the committee move to appoint Adam at this time for continuity of functions of the committee. So.
Okay, so the recommendation is there. Do we have a mover and seconder for that recommendation? And I need to have my screen with everybody on it back so I can see. Thank you. Moved by Councillor Duncan and second by Councillor Eggerts. David, I'll let you conduct the vote then.
Okay. Through the chair, Warden Aitchison, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councillor Eggerts, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councillor Wilhelm, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councillor Duncan, how do you vote?
Yes.
And Councillor Mackenzie, how do you vote?
Yes, so that motion is carried as well. Okay, sorry, I skipped over that one. That brings us down to other business, and I don't believe there is any other than at this time, and Rachel isn't here, but we do wish her well, but David is here, and we would like to thank Dave for his years of service here at the county, and sorry to see you move on, but do appreciate everything that you've done, and you've been with us through the good times and the bad times, and we are going to miss you and appreciate all that you have done.
Thank you, Councillor Mackenzie. It is a bit bittersweet, and I will miss everybody here at Perth, but I wish everyone well as well, and hope to see everyone down the road.
Very good, thank you. All right, anybody have anything else at this time? Okay, then the next item is our next meeting will be September the 27th. And it's hard to believe that we're already at the end of September. I don't believe we need a motion for that because they've been all laid out ahead of time. So if there is nothing else, then a motion that we adjourn at almost 10:15, I think, would be in order. Councillor Wilhelm and Councillor Duncan, thank you. David, I'll let you conduct the vote.
Thank you, Chair. Through the chair, Warden Aitchison, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councillor Eggetts, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councillor Wilhelm, how do you vote?
Yes, and all the best, David.
Thank you. And Councillor Duncan, how do you vote?
Yes.
And Councillor Mackenzie, how do you vote?
Yes. So the meeting is adjourned. So very good. Have a good rest of the week and we'll see